And now I would like to introduce our first panel member, Sarah.
Thank you, Lane. Thanks for inviting me. I'm Sarah Stein, and I've worked with Sephora. I started my career at Chanel and Estee Lauder, P&G, and currently the CMO at Vosch. And most recently, I worked with Sephora with a brand that had been a Sephora exclusive, and they'd expanded distribution. It was a hair care brand, and so really using analytics to marry that with this being in the kitchen with Sephora was a huge game changer. So thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And Holly?
Hi, everyone. I'm Holly Basher. I'm the Senior Director of Sales and Education. I currently oversee Dry Bar and Curlsmith. Been in the industry for a very long time. Sephora from Jump. A lot of prestige business with Bobby, Tom Ford, La Mer, Jo Malone, Clarins, all of the things. So I worked with Sephora for many, many years and excited to be here. I can tell you accelerated analytics for me personally has been a game changer. Lane and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but excited to be here and answer any questions.
Thanks, Holly. And JC?
Hi, everyone. I'm JC Guardia, Director of Analytics, FP&A, and Digital Transformation at T3 or T3 Micro. We make hair tools and we sell them across various retailers, including Sephora, Ulta, all the big ones, as well as in our own .com. I kind of run what we like to think about as our center of excellence, kind of combining all these three functions internally. And I would say I've been in the industry since 2018 when I joined T3 Micro. And from the get-go, we partnered with Accelerate Analytics, and they've really made this, all the back end, all the heavy lifting, all the tedious work to aggregate, to collect all this unstructured and messy data, and just really let us focus on the analysis and really driving our business. So, they're just great partners across the board.
Thanks, JC. And Alex?
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Alex Firestone, Director of Retail Operations at Scientific Hair Research with brands like Keranique and Bosley. So I've been in the industry for 10 plus years now, and basically managing the entire retail business. We know how much goes into it from the bottom to the top all the way. So having accelerated analytics has been, like everyone's saying, a game changer in an omni-channel business specifically, and having to make the budget allocation decisions. This basically getting a budget allocated to retail. This has been a necessity for us, and all the insights that come with it that Lane was talking about before. So looking forward to sharing more about that after intros here.
Thanks, Alex. And with that, why don't we go to our first question? What we'll do is I'll go around to each of the panel members and give them an opportunity to speak on their experience with each of the questions. And this first question, we'll go ahead and start with Holly, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
And let me begin with, brands often tell us that the three key benefits of Sephora data analytics are inventory management, store level insights, and field sales team management. Which of these has your team found to be most beneficial, and why?
Can I say all three for different reasons? Only because, I guess we really do drill down. The field sales team management for me personally is critical. I can just compare it to when we launched Curlsmith. We did a test in 73 stores at Sephora with 10 SKUs, and the field team could only at the time service 53 of those 73 stores, and we used the analytics and the data to go in and compare and show where the field team was going and what the impact was versus the stores that they were not visiting. I mean, and it was night and day. The doors they were visiting were doing triple the volume. So we really looked at it to make sure that the stores they were going in to support had enough inventory. We could see which SKUs were selling in stores that we serviced versus the ones that we didn't. And I have to tell you, for that test, We really stayed on top of the data. We started off the test as the #1 brand and ended the test as the #1 brand in the 4 brands that were being tested. And they've now rolled out additional distribution at Sephora, where we're in like over 180 stores in the US and we're opening Canada. So I really do feel strongly about being able to really drill down to that by door level, by SKU information, which previous to accelerated analytics took a lot of time and a lot of building of reports to get. In this way, every Monday we were able to do the recap and have the calls like immediately and be super efficient.
Excellent. Thank you, Holly. And congratulations on your success there.
Yeah, thank you.
JC?
I would have to agree with that, because it really is just, I think across the board, is just made our life so much easier. I would say, starting off, we just launched this year our sales ambassador program, and what we've been able to do is essentially create regions, markets, even territories, and assign those to each of those sales ambassadors for them to really understand the performance each of their territories, as well as kind of understanding the larger kind of store universe that we like to call it, out there kind of across all the different retailers. So I would say, measuring that, creating these scorecards that without that store level and SKU level visibility would be very difficult. On the inventory management side, our planning team works hand in hand, leveraging these insights with the individual buyers across the different retailers. As you can imagine, these buyers work with many brands, and a lot of the time they don't have the time to really look at store level and make sure that things are equipped the right way. And so having those reports ready to go and sharing those and having those kind of ongoing meetings on the retailer side, make sure that they order the relevant SKUs that need to be present at all the relevant stores. And then I think also just, again, really understanding where those big stores are driving our revenue, and just focusing on those low hanging fruit, I think really has made a difference. Just with kind of this visibility that has been thankfully given by our partnership with Accelerate Analytics.
Great. Thanks, JC. Alex?
So I would have to agree with the other two panelists on the field sales, specifically in regards to hitting the goals that are allocated out to them. We know how much budget is allocated to those programs, and to be able to see that and see how the reps are performing and see how stores are performing is important. But for me personally, it's been the store level insights, and that's because launching new products basically every season. Being able to see how previous products performed versus the newer products in regards to productivity. And also for marketing, geolocation, geo-targeting campaigns out to certain stores during promotional periods. Now that's been really helpful in regards to allocating the budget needed for those, and inventory needed to allocate out to those stores.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex. And then Sarah.
Well, of course, I largely agree with everyone. Those 3 reports, they're all amazing. And they together, that's where like the power really happens with inventory management. I think of that as just the starting point. If you don't have your inventory management, I can't, I'm acting in my own private world. And then having those, the field sales team, like combining inventory management with the field sales team, they're able to hit the ground running, and they walk into the store, they know the deal, and they're able to really use their time effectively. And then store level insights, as a marketer, I love the consumer. I love really diving deep into it. And that combined with the data Sephora shares with you really enables you to create a full story.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you all for your responses. And we'll go ahead and move to the next question. What are the biggest learnings you have taken from the data that you think other brands could replicate? And why don't we start with JC this time?
I think, yeah, having like a common, ground around understanding your data, your reporting, and again, working and bringing all those teams together on a weekly basis is really proving a big, thing for us. We have, one big kind of weekly meeting where we look at all these different reports through the different dashboards, whatever it may be. But I think having the different teams, sales, marketing, even in some cases, even the product team, and understanding kind of how these products are performing across the board, not just for one retailer, but in different regions, and really kind of focusing on what SKUs are working, what SKUs are not, what stores are performing. I think, I would say democratizing data has been such an important thing for us. And it's made such a big game changer. I know it's kind of really high level, but for us is really kind of buying into the data, buying into these technologies that are out there, and kind of, being proactive and bringing all those team members and hopefully driving the business forward. I think that's been the biggest, learning for us, I would say.
No, that's helpful. And it also, just to kind of add in, it reinforces that the tool isn't just for one person or a group of people in your organization. It really works across the organization. So thank you for that feedback. Alex.
So there's two answers to this question I think are important. One is about the consumer, and that is specifically the demand for your products and tailoring the marketing strategies to them. I know that a couple of the panelists mentioned this, and I mentioned this too, but it's really important to understand what the customer specifically is looking for in certain regions, and that's led to increased productivity overall on some of the newer products that I've launched. And the second is in regards to, again, an omni-channel business. So I know that there's a lot of brands out there that we're on D2C, Amazon, and B2B. We have a certain marketing budget that needs to be allocated accordingly. So being able to back up your analysis on either previous promotions or promotional analysis that you think is coming up for certain brand events, like at Sephora, big hair events, etc., then it's very important to like getting approval for those budgets and being able to successfully allocate it.
No, very helpful. Thank you, Alex. Next, we'll go to Sarah.
So my favorite is leveraging the period sales report for promotional SKUs. Just during a promotional period, you want it to be narrow and deep. You want it to move fast. And, whether you're enticing new consumers or you're rewarding current ones, really diving deep into that report enables you to get it right. And like you can learn after each period and really maximize that time, because it's especially, getting it's the key period for your new consumers, for rewarding your current ones. And that report really, really is the key.
Excellent. And then Holly.
Sorry, I was coughing earlier. I put myself on mute. Apologies. I share all of their same sentiments, but I think that for me, the top two things would be the being proactive versus being reactive. I feel like having the data up front really allows you to work like instantaneously instead of like dragging out and waiting for the data. So you're able to be in the moment and be in real time and be proactive versus reactive. And I think that the other thing is that it really does help when you're looking at like how are the trends of the business, like when we are forecasting and looking at, does the launch make sense for Sephora? How is the consumer shopping? What's this like? Should move this up versus, et cetera, based on the trend. So it really allows you to analyze like how your SKU performances, how categories are performing. And as you're building those categories as a brand, is that something that we would look to as far as innovation, and is it connecting and resonating to like the Sephora client as well?
That's great. Thank you, Holly. And before I go to the next question, I just want to remind all of our viewers, feel free to put questions in the chat. I know I've received a few direct communications, but feel free to put them in the chat and we'll answer all of those questions, or try to get as many of them as we can during the Q&A session. The next question is there a Sephora best practice that you can share that has allowed you and your teams to improve your relationships with Sephora? And why don't we start with Alex this time?
Well, again, I want to go back to digital ad campaigns and the external marketing support that goes into being a partner with Sephora, with Ulta, with any of these retailers. That's extremely important. Just those campaigns in general, and as everyone's been talking about, having the insights available to be able to, properly allocate your campaign budget out is extremely crucial to that. So I think that's a best practice that has been good with our retail partnerships.
Excellent. And Sarah?
So, Sephora shares amazing insights, and with the right data, you can really unlock it. And I found that it's especially helpful if you're doing an event like that whole path to purchase. You need all the data points to bring it to life. And with accelerated analytics, you've got that in-store piece, which before it was definitely very, very, very fuzzy. So here you've got the Sephora insights, you've got your insights for how you're driving traffic to the store, and then by managing it with that key data, from accelerated, you're able to bring it together. You get that path to purchase, and your event just blows it out of the water, which is what you want.
Excellent. Thank you. And you got a hand clap from Alex. So
Yep.
Amazing.
Exactly.
Let's go to Holly.
I would have to say that education is such a big part of what we do in store. And, we want to make sure that we are honoring the amount of education visits that we, have committed to with Sephora. And it's really great to be able to go in and see, analyze the data in the stores that we were in. Which stores did we train? And what the kind of halo effect is from that education that we've provided in the stores. That's the end goal. We have a field team, but they're small but mighty, and the idea is to really educate those teams in store and really leave behind with them so that the sales continue once we go. So it's really helpful to be able to analyze that from that perspective and really challenge the process if needed.
Excellent. Thank you, Holly. And JC.
Yeah, I would say definitely, empowering our teams, being the sales teams or sales ambassadors or a planning team, to again leverage, the data that's there to hopefully make their jobs easier and more strategic, be it on making sure that those Sephora stores are nice and stocked and have, the right SKUs at the right time, or, making sure that those sales ambassadors are visiting those stores, making sure that we look like number one in those marketing activations, making sure that whatever SKUs that we should be focusing on are performing the way that we hope that we're performing, and then establishing those relationships, being, with the Sephora employees at those stores, within the sales ambassadors territories that they manage, or again, those, conversations that are planning with our buyers, making sure that everything is getting stocked nicely and those orders are coming through on shipments. So you can imagine that it's all about, again, democratizing the data and making sure that our teams have those, data points at their fingertips.
Excellent. Thanks, JC. And then let's go to our next question. And Sarah, we'll have you start with this one. How have you been able to better plan and execute in-store support and animation at Sephora?
Here, I think it comes back to, with Sephora, being in the kitchen with them is amazing. And that's such a special moment. And you want to leverage all their ideas because they're coming to you with these great ideas that are they're very grounded. They have, amazing information to help your next launch or help your next season. And the key piece is maximizing it. So, let's say you're thinking about a specific SKU, you're going to launch it, and they have amazing insights and they're being this tremendous partner. You also need to create a halo effect with your other SKUs. So by having this in-store data, it's by store, it's by field team, exactly how you can really create the halo effect and make it an overall stronger story, because you want that launch to like be amazing. But we also, this is the story of every marketer, is we can't leave anyone behind. We need the launch to raise the water for everyone. So by having these insights, you're really able to connect all the dots and tell the full picture.
Excellent. Thanks, Sarah. Holly?
Yeah, I would say I use this analogy a lot as far as in-store support. There are those top doors that we all know what the Sephora top doors are. I consider those like Boardwalk and Park Place, but maybe is there like a Marvin Gardens and a Baltic Avenue that we haven't gone to for a little bit that we could get a bigger drink of water out of? Sometimes we service the top doors so much, and there's so many other brands are also servicing them that we kind of get a little diluted. So it really does help us to kind of take a look and say, okay, well, we haven't done, an event or supported X store. Like, maybe that's a place that we can pivot and go and support them, to drive that piece as well. I just think sometimes it's top doors, but there's a whole world of Sephora out there that needs support. So we really do take a look at that and try to support all doors and see where we can go, like, off Broadway and Park Place, or Boardwalk and Park Place, I should say.
And Holly, I love the Monopoly analogy, just because I'm a huge Monopoly fan. So thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I try to give the visual, you know what I'm saying? It's sometimes you can get more, from the hotels over on Baltic Avenue. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. JC?
Yeah, I mean, I piggyback off the answer. It's the coolest thing is when you kind of participate in those sales marketing, meetings, and you see those type of conversations happening in real time as they look through the data, and then you're like, hey, we really should do this big event at this one store in Newport Beach, and it's like because of this reason. It's because maybe we haven't really been focusing, but maybe there's an opportunity for us to go and do that. And so kind of seeing it in action, seeing kind of the data being used in those meetings, be it sales or marketing, and then kind of executing and going there and then measuring that performance. I think that's kind of what you want to see as someone that works in data. So absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And then Alex.
So in the same way that Holly was talking about finding those hidden gem doors at Sephora, I think it's also important to, you have your hero products, and you push a lot of marketing dollars towards them, and you have customers talking about them. But what about the other products in your line, the other ancillary products? Maybe there's an opportunity there to improve the productivity and improve the sell-through of some of those in certain markets, and that's where the SKU level trends for stores comes in handy.
Excellent, thank you. For our next question, we'll start with Holly. Often brands reference working in the kitchen with Sephora, and we've actually heard that a few times today on the call. How have you been able to leverage some of the insights and data to get the most out of these sessions?
My favorite is in the kitchen. It's super collaborative. I mean, even though I work for the brand, like, we are nothing without, Sephora and their input. I think there's some really creative conversations that have happened where, again, I'll reference back to maybe a trend in something that we are planning to launch as a company. And we go and we are able to sit with Sephora and use some of the data from this and say, well, this is where it's showing that the consumer is shopping. What do you think? How is the Sephora client shopping, and what are they looking for? Because even though we may think that we know what we need from a brand perspective, it is invaluable to sit with Sephora and get their feedback and how they are looking at things and what they are seeing in store, and using the data that we have and then their expertise. We're really able to come to a much better collaborative environment and do something that I feel like we all are bought into, versus just, coming in and talking from one side. So it really does help with that collaboration in that aspect.
Excellent. JC?
For us, something I can think about is over the last 12 months, we've been kind of transitioning into a new branding, including new packaging, new marketing gondolas, POPs, whatever you can think of. And so being able to work with Sephora and kind of measure same store performance before, after, and kind of seeing that slowly progression and kind of trying to measure that lift. I think that's been really cool to kind of been able to see, again, because you have that store level, that SKU level data. And again, having those teams being empowered, participating in those meetings, not just internally, but externally. And I think, again, that's been awesome to see from someone that loves data and loves especially seeing those teams use the data as well.
Excellent. And then Sarah.
Sorry, here we go. So I mean, I echo what everyone else is saying, and and also I've been talking about the kitchen so much. I really feel that the kitchen is such an inspiring moment, but I can't possibly unlock all of it without this in-store data, because I'm just looking at one piece of it, and I want to be a great partner. Sephora is a great partner, and for me to be like a true partner to them, I need to be, as informed and be able to build off of their ideas. And this data really enables me to do that.
Great, thank you. And then our next question, we'll go ahead and start with JC. Brands often tell us one of the biggest challenges or limitations to a brand's growth has been having the right stock in the right store at the right time. Has this been an issue for you? And how have you and your teams addressed this?
For sure. I would say, again, that's something that I wish our planning team was here to say how big of a change that has proven for them, because it's something that they can, a lot of the time these buyers at these big, retailers like Sephora don't have the time to, look at every store for each brand and make sure that each SKU is set up correctly or stocked correctly. And so again, even if it's just sending those, weekly emails, or, hey, like sending you all these stores that don't have the correct stock, kind of making sure that those big stores have the right SKUs has proven so big. And it's almost like a little nudge, to our retailer partners. And then they're quickly then ordering and sending those shipments requests, which it's great to see, not just on the sell-through, but also on the sell-in. That you also love to see retail performance, but of course you're always thinking about, those gross shipments and net shipments as well. So again, having that internal to external partnership, leveraging those data points has been excellent.
Great, thank you, JC. Alex?
So for this question, I really want to speak to the omni-channel brands out there, where you have multi-channel business. It's omni-channel business, and you are buying, or you're forecasting and then purchasing inventory, and having it be basically at one facility or multiple places. But having these insights is absolutely crucial. I mean, what if during Prime Day blows it out of the water, and then you don't have the inventory that you need for a promotion that's coming after that for retail? So working together with your channel managers and making sure that and your inventory managers, and making sure that you have all of the inventory that you need on hand, and hopefully a little bit extra if it's not by the forecast model, then having these insights is a necessity for me. I have to have these in order to see what I believe the lifts are going to be on certain promotions, get the inventory in on time, before, just in case there's other channel promotions that really do phenomenally and they sell through and more, and then I have the inventory on hand for what I need.
Excellent, thanks, Alex. And then we'll go to Sarah.
So I love this question because it immediately makes me think of horror stories where I walked into, where, like pre-data, where, you've sold out of all your promotional sets at the key door, and they're all stuck somewhere, in Marvin Gardens, to use Holly's analogy, where they're just not moving. Or maybe you've got a big event and you thought you had enough inventory for the event, but guess what? Once they put together the display in front, there's not enough inventory. So this, those moments where you wake up in the middle of the night are like, they're resolved. You don't have to think about this anymore when you've got the data and you've got the right amount of inventory in the right doors. We do love Marvin Gardens, though. It's got a place in our hearts.
Excellent. Thank you. And Holly, close out with you on this question.
I told Lane the other day that, we call accelerated analytics AA, but I said without AA, I wanted to go to the legit AA because I'm telling you, just finding and like trying to find the time to do all of this was crazy. And the tracking, like I can speak from experience right now. We have a launch right now, and we're looking at like how many stores are out. Do they have all of the stock that they need? And to your, I can't remember who said it earlier, to your point, they really don't have the time to really go in every day from the buying side and make sure every single door is having things shipped to them. So it's really easy for us to like pull a report in accelerated analytics, say, hey, just notice that like these 10 stores are out of the SKU. Can we push stock to them, give them a little nudge and like help them on that side and do our part? I think that that's the biggest thing is like, you can't just like sit and wait for like the retailer to like, figure that out. As a collaboration and a true partnership, helping serve up that information to them and making their job a little bit easier has been a win-win, I think, for both of us. We end up getting the stock and then they're able to push it out and then the sales just kind of drive from there.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. What I would love to do is, these were some of the questions that we came with, but we'd love to open it up to the Q&A, and I'm going to pass it to Daniel Hutchinson to lead that section of the webinar. Dan?
Sure. Thank you, Lane. One of the questions that has come in, what are some tips that you can give on how to get your buyer to action your data insights? That's open to anybody in the panel.
I can answer the question. I mean, I think that like it really is just going to them with the data and saying, okay, so listen, this is where we could be if we did X. So, if you had this amount of stock, let's just use the stock, for example, maybe you're not making a plan or you're not using, you're not like on target for what your forecast was. And you're able to go in and say, well, in the stores that we have this data, this is where we're at. We're out of 15% of our doors are out of it. If we had these 15% of the doors filled, we would be back on target for forecast. So I think that you can use it. There's so many different ways you can use the data, but I'm just speaking from like a recent conversation that I personally had, where it came to, getting stock pushed to stores and all of that, and just really kind of utilizing it to show them the difference in the POS sales, and then thus like, how the business would flourish if you could help right size that and work together on that piece. So from an inventory perspective, just off of top of mind, that's one of the ways that we've gotten them to, utilize the data and kind of help work with us.
I'll chime in. I'm supporting everything Holly is saying. It's really, I mean, the buyers have so many choices they have to make, and painting a picture that's showing like this is a great decision for them because of all their options. This is going to be really worth their while. So it just enables you to create a robust picture. So it's like, choose me. I'm the one you want to go with because we get this going, and then it's all gonna ladder up, and you've got a big launch coming, and just create a bigger picture of how it's all gonna work together. And the data really helps me do it.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, Rachel Ellis, for your question. We will come to that one next. So Rachel's question, when it comes to promos at Sephora, does AA provide a way to easily strip out promotions to get a true sense of your average weekly sales or top 10 SKUs? Less promo without taking it outside of the system. Thanks, Rachel, for that question. Lane?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Lane, is somebody going to pop in, or I mean, I can.
No, please go, Holly. We're going to open it up to the four of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that from that perspective, it's really great. There's this really great template that they have that's like a weekly, week over week kind of tracker that shows like trends for the entire year, like week over week over week. So you can really quickly go in if you want to go into that report and take a look and say, okay, you know, here's what our base weeks were. These 2 weeks spiked because we had a promotion, and this is how much of a lift that we saw during the promotion. Like you can use that also when you're forecasting and using to like build a budget, like with your finance team and everything, to say, hey, you know, when we participated in this promo, we saw a lift of X. So that is very helpful. You can see it like from a week over week snapshot, and kind of like extract that out so that you can see what promo weeks are versus non-promo weeks. I don't know. I hope that answered some of the question.
I actually wanted to piggyback off of that because that report is awesome because you get an overall, so that's store.com, and you also get it broken down by just store level sales and inventory and just .com sales and inventory. Also, you get sold stores versus active stores, which I think is another good data point to have when looking into the promotional weeks that Holly was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
One of the
I'm
things
going to pick.
go
Oh,
ahead.
go for it, Lane.
No,
No, I was just gonna like I love everything that's being said, and just adding one more layer is so you've got the promotional report, and then marrying that with like with the store specific report, because we all make less money on promos, so we want them to build to something else, and using that report you can really track, yes, it built, and being very specific about it.
I was going to add one other point as well, which is within our system. If you remember, I mentioned earlier about setting up attributes. So you can set up attributes for a store, like the merchandising as an example. We talked about that earlier with planograms. But you can also put attributes for a SKU. So in this example that you're asking about, Rachel, one of the things that's possible is you can set up a group of SKUs that are those promo SKUs. And then when you pull the numbers, you can actually pull the numbers with like those SKUs only, like the promo only, and then you can pull the balance. And what that will allow you to do is look at what was the promo business this year, last year, trend, et cetera, and all the stats around that, inclusive of all the inventory and weeks of supply. But then you can also pull that same information for the non-promotional SKUs. So there's very easy ways using the attributes by SKU to be able to get to that same information as well. And I'll pass it back to Dan. I think there are a few more questions out there.
Thanks, Lane. So thinking more on profiling doors, could you share how you think modeling and categorizing the doors has helped you with Sephora business?
Daniel, you cut out right at the end. I just heard like categorize in the business. What was the whole question? I apologize.
Oh, not at all. I thought I'd said something horrendous and caused an awkward silence. So thank you. So
Yeah, no.
more...
I only heard half of it. It's probably on my side too. I'm so sorry. It might be, technology
No, I
on
missed
my
a bit
side.
of it too. No, Holly,
Okay.
I missed it.
Oh, good. So thinking back to profiling doors, could the panel please share what you think on modeling and categorizing the doors and how this has helped you at Sephora?
I can answer that to start off. I mean, we can. What we do is we create different types of grades. Either we use what's kind of available, or we even kind of create additional layers to it. Be it those like low or high week supply stores, those stores that are selling more than others. Whatever you want to create, you then kind of then score those A, B, C. That's stuff that you can kind of get creative with, and both on the inventory management side, driving kind of sales. And then again, also even just maybe creating certain categories around those kind of hero SKUs versus maybe kind of the rest of the portfolio. I think that's also kind of created the ability of doing various analysis for us, outside of kind of just the standard stuff as well.
And seeing how certain types of products are selling in certain regions at certain stores. So whether that be shampoos and conditioners in a place that It's a little drier. You need like the deep hydration conditioner, shampoo and conditioner, like in a place that's drier, and there's more women that are looking for that, versus like a color boost shampoo conditioner, which is more prevalent or in higher demand in a separate region. So I think looking into promotions or launches for the doors that you're talking about, specific stores, is important.
Just to add one more little piece on that one, again, agreeing with everything that's being said, but thinking about certain doors, you can get in granular. Certain doors have higher like the price point of what sells is higher, and it comes back to geography. And you're like, it's kind of a blind spot without the data, but here you're like, okay, they do really well with everything that costs $24, and so if it's 32, I'm going to focus on sending it to a different door. So really understanding the consumer that's in that door, because things do vary by geography, and it gives you that intel.
There's a really great like heat map. I don't know if somebody mentioned that too, that like if you can put in and it'll show you like, the United States, and it'll show you if you wanted to see like how a SKU is selling in a certain state, or you want to see, a percent to total business. So there's a lot of ways to take a look at it and analyze that data.
Great point.
Yeah, thank you all. And that's all from me in the Q&A, so I'll hand back to you, Lane. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan. And thanks to all of our panelists for being able to hit those questions on spur of the moment. As we close out the webinar, I would again like to thank our amazing panel for sharing their insight. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce our amazing panel we have today, sharing real-world experiences and strategies on how they play to win at Sephora. Throughout the event, feel free to post comments and questions, as we will have a Q&A at the end of the session.